Who am I with today?
Kevin Edge from Founthill Land and Development Limited.
And?
Hi there, I'm AJ Shome. I'm the Land and Planning Director of Founthill as well.
You might recognise AJ from the podcast. Kevin was busy. Champagne and caviar, I think, at the time.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
More like bricks and mud, probably.
Yeah, looking after development's more like it, yeah.
The responsible thing to do.
Yeah.
So, this is a beautiful development. Where are we in the world?
We're in Waltham Abbey in Essex.
Oh. And this is a development you recently completed? Was completed?
Yeah, we're just completing now. So all the houses are sold. We've got one family living already, 3 more moving in today. So it's very exciting.
How long did it take to sell them?
It took about 9 weeks.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We was really pleased, weren't we?
Yeah, it was really good. I think obviously it's, Mr. Sunak and the stamp duty changes were probably helpful in that as well. But I think what we've always aimed to do is try and hit sort of mid-market that tends to sell fairly well and fairly fluidly in any market, really.
Yeah, I think the coronavirus actually really helped us in some ways. It cost us a lot of money and interest on our loan, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but also really helped us because everyone was sitting at home in their small little places. Everyone's looking at it going, actually, we'd quite like to live in the countryside, and they realise that they can work from home with Zoom and all this kind of stuff. So we're putting like really high speed internet, really big gardens, nice spatial place, and everyone was really pleased to live here.
And then you've obviously got the wonderful deer sanctuary and forest that you've got up there. So
I mean, there's a house right next to it. No, there's 2 houses. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And the whole development, you can walk into it, can't you, from around the...
Yeah, you can walk. There's a meadow around the back. Maybe we'll see in a minute, but there's going to be a meadow around there, and you can walk right up into the deer park. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. And did you have a lot of interest, a lot of viewings on this? Like it was as you expected?
Yeah, there was. So we was going to open just before the lockdown, and then obviously we had to delay that. But then there was a big backlog. As soon as the lockdown came, there was like I think 10 people on the first day, and there was people booked up straight after that to visit the show home.
Wow.
And I think a good thing about this though is that it's quite unique in the sense that it is pretty much in the countryside. You can't see it on a foggy day like this, unfortunately, but there are beautiful views across sort of rolling hills. But the other thing is that you've got Waltham Abbey right on your doorstep there as well. So it's quite unique and quite a desirable development. So we did get quite a lot of interest.
So it's quite well connected, despite being in the countryside.
You can get into London. I think it's
M25 is like 10 minutes up the road.
M25 is there. You're a few moments from a couple of train stations that get you into London in about 20-25 minutes.
Wow. And what was this? Because it's a sloping site, so what was it before you purchased it?
It's definitely sloping, that's for sure. We found that out and found out the cost of that, so that was quite exciting. So previously it was a scaffold yard.
Wow.
And it was just when we purchased it, it was just like big tin sheds basically.
Wow.
Full of scaffolding.
I mean, it's a big site for scaffolding.
Yeah,
it's been a serious business before at some point.
I think there was maybe a couple of
There's a few scaffold companies that operated out of it, but it was, if you think about it, it's a bit of an eyesore in the countryside. So it was one of those things where, when we put the proposal forward for houses, the council saw the benefit in having something a bit more attractive in this location than what they had currently. So.
And this is Greenbelt, isn't it?
This is the Greenbelt, yeah.
Obviously, it's notoriously difficult to get planning permission on Greenbelt. Was it easier because there was something already here, as ugly as in weird as it was?
Of course, yeah. I mean, there's lots of different arguments that we use to overcome it, and I think, as I mentioned before, there are exceptions within policy, that do allow you to overcome Greenbelt issues. But it's hard. It's always very hard. You have to just put together as compelling a case as possible, and obviously, things like the environmental factors and the scaffold yard and the impact on the general openness of the Greenbelt and the countryside. Putting these in place, we managed to persuade him that this was a better alternative, basically.
I'd say so, than a kind of ugly scaffolding.
Definitely is, yeah.
And so, because this is sloping, I can see some retaining walls there, very pretty ones. Kevin, tell me about the groundworks required, at least in this part of the development.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of groundworks here, so it's been quite a baptism of fire, really, because it's been more than bigger challenge I've had to take on before, but that's been fine. We've overcome it. So we had to dig down about 3 metres up this end of the land, and then we put a big it's called Gavian basket wall all the way around there. And what that does is it allows the water just to seep through a little bit as well. And then there's also a drain which runs right around the back, and that mound is like totally full of hardcore. So when it rains, it soaks all the water into there, and it runs out around the back, and it runs into the drainage, into the big attenuation tank down the bottom there.
Wow. So there was a lot of work to do with drainage because this is basically one big downward facing hill.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. As AJ rightly said on the podcast, this is all clay soil up there, and when the water hits clay soil right from the top of the hill, it just wants to keep running. The clay won't soak it up at all, so it runs all the way down to the valley and you can't see it.
Wow.
I think one of the reasons that we're covered in mist today, because just outside of here it's actually quite sunny, but actually in this little valley it's really foggy, and I think it's because it's so wet around here the sun can't get it all out. But all the water runs down here, and it's like a big river running down it wants to get down to the bottom there in the valley.
Wow.
And we're right in the middle of it, and as I was saying earlier, it's been like thousands of years it's been doing that, and because we wanted to build a few houses, it decided it didn't really care and just kept running right
You're
through
just
the middle.
in the way, really.
Just in the way, yeah. So we put some extensive drainage in.
Wow. And you knew there'd be drainage this level of it when you were looking at it and analysing?
Yeah, we knew there was going to be. We found out that there was more than we anticipated, to be honest. But there's been sort of changes in legislation and this kind of thing, because like, over the last few years there's been a lot of flooding in different areas around the country, and they're trying to make sure that we control that a lot more. So they're putting things in planning to say, right, this is how you've got to control the water, and they call it for a 1 in 100 year event. So it's like when the Noah's Ark time, when it just pours and pours and pours and pours, you've got to be able to control the water and not let it kind of affect the environment.
Wow, I see. Cool. And how many houses are on this development?
There's 9 houses.
Did you want more, or was it not optional?
Well, you always want more. It was interesting because 9 was the sort of right level. You tend to go for what we call minor applications in planning. Minor applications are less than 10 units. Obviously it also means that you don't fall into the affordable housing area. This site doesn't really support any more than that, so we had to kind of keep it at 9. 9 was a good number as well. One thing I would say though is that the plots are probably a bit more spacious.
I'd say they are, yeah.
But the thing about that is that sometimes that is reflected in the overall build cost. So we have provided a better quality product with a bit more spaciousness and more land and plots, but all of that costs money to develop as well. So it's something to certainly bear in mind.
I think it's a real challenge to get planning on it, and I think AJ sort of underplays the amount of work that him and Andrew, our partner, works with us as well, who prefers to sort of stay in the background a little bit. But the amount of work they did to get planning here was phenomenal. Even I was explaining to you earlier about the measuring of the projects, and we couldn't go over 1,000 square metres, and so we've designed it to like 995. And I remember for months AJ and Andrew were arguing with the local authority about the standard method of measurement that you use for measuring, and they kept saying that no, we say it's over 1,000, and we were saying it's under 1,000. And they found case law and appeals that had gone through and put this in front of the council, and even then they tried to push it back, and in the end the committee, they said no, we're going to support it. But the amount of work that these guys did to get us permission,
and that was just one,
was huge.
That was just one isolated example, but that's fairly typical of the kind of almost show-stopping incident that tends to happen constantly in planning.
Yeah.
So there's something like that, and like if you can't get over that hurdle, everything falls apart.
Yeah.
We've had plenty of those.
How long did it take?
And all the other opportunities that we do as well.
How long did it take to get planning? So when you first had the conversation, the submission, whatever, until approval, go ahead.
So this one was probably one of the quicker ones, and I'd say it was 9 months.
About that, maybe just a little bit more, but around that, yeah.
Yeah, around about that.
But that's 9 months of back and forth, pulling your hair out, arguing,
absolutely,
fighting over.
Oh god, yeah.
It's become our signature, really, isn't it? The Founthill way. We just keep relentlessly pushing. Right, we're going to find a way through.
Yeah, and to be honest, even this week we've had things of a similar nature. It just happens constantly. It's just become the constant. It is the norm. You get, huge show-stopping issues.
It's our job, yeah.
There's not even that much energy in it now when we talk about it.
No.
It's like, that's another
let's deal with that.
huge
Just
problem.
another thing,
Another
day in paradise,
yeah.
Development's easy though, guys. What are you talking about?
It looks easy on the brochure.
Planning's even easier, I tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. It's had for a tour down this site. So a few people are moving in today, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
moving into the top 4 houses.
Okay.
So there's people already living in this top one here.
Yeah.
Nice young couple, and there's 3 more families moving into these houses up here.
Are they all the same price, all these houses, or did you
These 3 on this side were a little bit more expensive. This side was a little bit cheaper.
because of the view over there?
Yeah, you've got a much better view over there, and you've got the meadow and all this kind of stuff, so it's
Okay,
much more
nice.
attractive.
And what are you planning to do with this land?
This is all going to be seeded.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's the wrong time of year now.
Yeah.
So we've put lawns in the back, and we're turfing them.
Okay.
Front gardens are going to be seeded, so it'll be nice grass.
That looked really nice. I love the brick you used in the roof tiles as well.
Yeah, the red and the yellow go really well together.
They go really nicely together.
The bricks are a real challenge at the moment. We have to wait about 11 months, I think, for our bricks.
11 months?
So we order them well in advance, and they come just about in time. But
Because of Corona and supply chain?
and just because of supply chain before Corona, and it got even worse during Corona. Yeah.
11 months
Yeah,
for bricks.
yeah.
So you basically couldn't build this?
We'd already started building. We started building certain aspects,
Okay.
and they were timber frame houses, which saved us, so that the houses could be built without the brick, and then the brick went on afterwards. So it did really save us.
Bloody hell. I mean, you just wouldn't think or know that. You think bricks, you're like, just get them from anywhere. They're everywhere, they're abundant.
You just get them when you need them, right? Yeah.
Wow. And are these a certain type of brick, or are they?
No, just a standard kind of stock brick, really. But all bricks are really, really tough to get at the moment.
Wow. So there's big problems then in the supply chain that I guess people aren't talking about, or
People aren't
knowing
talking about. Yeah, people are not aware of, and it's definitely going to get worse over probably during Brexit and because of coronavirus and everything as well. It's okay if you plan in front.
Yeah,
but,
but you've got to plan
You've
quite
got
a while.
yeah, a long way in front, right? Yeah.
When it comes to timber frame, then what's the benefit versus other methods, if any?
Yeah, I mean the benefit is you get the whole building put up really quickly.
Okay.
Personally, so we tried it here. It kind of worked okay. I think I prefer brick and block as a build process because it's understood by people more, so it's easier. We were talking earlier about just keep it simple, so it's simpler and people understand brick and block, and I think we'll stick with that in future. But the timber frame's good, it goes up quickly, get your roof on, you can get covered quickly, and it did save us on this because otherwise we would have been really held up because of the bricks. So we were quite lucky we could keep it going.
Is it cheaper, or is it cheaper because it's quicker?
It's the cost saving is not as huge as you'd think. If you're doing like 50, 60, 100 houses, then there's probably savings because you're going to be buying it a lot cheaper, and then you can get the speed savings as well. But on a small site, it doesn't really equate so well.
Okay, cool.